Good morning, everyone. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague Siobhan Hennessy from Irish Medtech Skillnet to talk us into what's going to happen on this morning's meeting. This event and this webinar is being recorded, so I just want to make everyone aware of that. Siobhan, I'll hand over to yourself.
Lovely. Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everybody. As Anne said, my name is Siobhan Hennessy. I'm a programme coordinator with the Irish Medtech Skillnet. So we're delighted to welcome you all to our informational webinar on Lead with the Need BioInnovate 101, which covers the essentials of health technology innovation. So this morning we'll hear from Anne O'Connell, who is the Network Manager of the Irish Medtech Skillnet, Camille O'Malley, who is with BioInnovate Ireland, and Alice Shaughnessy from Luminate Medical, and Barry Walsh from Alcon. So we would just ask you all maybe to mute your microphones, please, and we'll take all questions at the end. So if you feel like, if anybody has a query or wants to raise anything, if you could just include it in the chat, please, and we'll address everything at the end of the meeting. Thanks very much. And I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Siobhan. So I just want to give a brief introduction as to where this program came from and why we developed it in the first place. And then, as Siobhan said, I'll hand over to Camille and to talk us through the BioInnovate delivery of this program and the program specifically. But really who we want to hear from today is from Alice and Barry, and they've already done this program, and it's really to get their perspectives from an industry perspective that we really want to talk about. But at the outset of developing this program, the Irish Medtech Skillnet team would have applied for funding to develop the program with BioInnovate in the first place. And the reason we did that, actually, one of those people that was behind that was Barry Walsh from Alcon, because he completed a Realising Your R&D Ambition program with the Irish Medtech Skillnet, and we really knew there was further need to support companies that wanted to get into the RD&I space. So what we did was we applied for funding to Skillnet Ireland to develop training programs with BioInnovate, and really to be able to give greater access to the whole BioDesign methodology with BioInnovate. So that was really important that we were able to do that, and we were successful in our application. And over the last few years, we have been in a position to be able to develop two programs with BioInnovate, one for strategic development of RD&I in your company with senior leaders that we run Q4 typically of each year, and we've ran two of those programs to date. And then the other one of these programs is Lead with the Need, for people who are really implementing the whole RD&I process and the whole innovation process and the BioDesign methodology for the people on the call here this morning, implementing that within their companies. So really wanting to hear what Barry and what Alice, why they did this program in the first place, what their objective was, and did the program meet those objectives. So we'll talk, and as Siobhan has said, if there are any questions, please add them to the chat. Very, very happy to have more questions from people on the call than myself or Camille. But it would be great to hear from people and your interest in the program. So Camille, I'm going to hand over to yourself.
Hey, thanks, Anne. Good morning, everybody. Lovely Tuesday morning, just 9 sleeps before Christmas. And what better gift to give yourself, right, than a place on the 101 course next year. And yes, that's a shameless Christmas plug of the program. But I'll introduce myself first. So my name is Camille O'Malley. I'm the Industry Training Manager in BioInnovate. And I'm also a BioInnovate alumnus. So my background originally is in chemistry, worked in pharmaceutical chemistry and polymer chemistry, and then did a master's in medtech commercialization and joined the BioInnovate Fellowship Program in 2017. And then following that, I founded a startup called Extremity Medical. And then the last year or two, I have been the industry training manager for BioInnovate as well. So Just to introduce a little bit about what BioInnovate is, we were founded in 2011 as a specialist health technology innovation training program, or accelerator program, if you like. We're a national program, but we're based here in the University of Galway in Block E, which is a beautiful old building right on the centre of campus. And our purpose essentially is to train future innovators and embed the medtech and health tech industry within Ireland and within the West. So BioInnovate is Europe's only affiliate program for the infamous Stanford BioDesign, which is a form of innovation methodology, which is essentially what we refer to often called needs-led innovation. And what that really means is when we think about new products or solutions or processes within our healthcare system that is for the betterment of patients and makes an impact on kind of patients and physicians and payers and all the relevant stakeholders. This methodology teaches tools and ways in which to identify a problem that's worth solving, to validate it with a number of stakeholders, to understand the kind of what we refer to as the insight, what's unique about what you understand about the problem, and much later on, validate your market, your burden of proof, and then consider your solution. So rather than coming up with a new solution and sort of forcing it into a market, we say that we validate the problem is correct, the market wants something, the stakeholders are engaged, and then we go and we find what is the right solution. So it's called needs-led innovation. So we've been running a year-long fellowship program since 2011, where we take in 12 participants over a number of clinical areas. But we've also, on our other arm, been running industry trainings. We've been engaging with Ireland's SMEs and multinational companies for 15 years. We've been taking in teams, we've been going out to companies, we've been teaching this methodology as a way to embed and grow innovation capacity within the system. And a number of years ago, we engaged, as Anne mentioned, with Irish Medtech Skillnet to create better access to this methodology. BioInnovate has produced over 35 startups in Ireland. 1 in 8 high potential startups in Ireland at the moment are a BioInnovate alumnus, but we've also trained over 300 participants in our industry programs. So we felt that there was a pull, that there was kind of a market want for more people to engage with a very tangible, very practical innovation methodology. So we've created 2 new programs and mentioned Strategic Innovation, which is our leadership and executive program that we usually run in Q4, and our Lead with a Need BioInnovate 101, which is a really incredible program. So this year or next year, 2026, it will run from the 3rd to the 5th of March. So it's about 2.5 days all in. It runs here on campus. So it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, kind of half of a day of Thursday. And we have it here in person, and that's allow us to sort of get our participants to fully step away, to engage and immerse themselves in the methodology and the learnings, and to take essentially a sprint through BioDesign. So we open this program in particular, Lead with a Need, is for everybody. It's for anyone who works within the health tech, med tech, healthcare industry, whether you be a clinician in a hospital or a physio in primary care or an engineer in a large multinational or quality or salesperson in an SME. We're looking for everybody who wants to understand the entire process of medical devices, not just the part they're familiar with, but where did it begin? And where is it going in the end? And that's what this course does through a very fast, very busy 3 days. So we've had enough, I think, chat from me. I'll pepper in other pieces of information as we go, but I'll hand over first to Alice Shaughnessy. Alice is from Luminate Medical, and she took part in our 101 course earlier this year.
Thanks, Camille. Hi everyone, I'm Alice. As Camille said there, I did the program in March or April this year. So I'm a biomedical engineer by background, and I've worked with Luminate Medical now for over 3 years. So it's a startup that's working in the oncology space to basically improve the quality of life for patients going through cancer care, whether that's like mitigating symptoms or reducing the burden of cancer care on the patient and caregivers. Prior to that, I founded a tech startup creating smart mirrors, so I've always been in this kind of R&D aspect, but the past year or so I've moved into the clinical function within Luminet, so I've been quite involved with clinical trials and actually going to first patient treatment visits and being on site with clinicians. So it's been a bit of a hybrid role, and I've got to see a lot of different stakeholders through that work, which is one of the things that encouraged me to go towards this program as well, that I've seen all the different stakeholders that are involved in some of our medical devices, and I had heard from a lot of my colleagues who had done BioInnovate, the long program, all the different things I learned from need statements and filtering out issues. So that was one of the things that pushed me towards it. What's from hearing from my colleagues.
Thanks, Alice. That's a really good introduction to get, and I think going back to Camille's point, it's the access really to BioInnovate and being able to get a sense of what you could learn from that. So Barry, I'm going to hand over to yourself to give us a brief introduction about you coming to this program now. I did already allude to the fact that you were there at day one of this, the work from the Irish Medtech Skillnet with BioInnovate, but just to get a sense of why you thought it was also important for the medtech sector in Ireland to be able to do this, and your own role as well. That'd be great.
Sure. I mean, so look, background, my name is Barry Walsh, work with Alcon R&D. I've been with Alcon for 27 years. We're the global leader in eye care, and we have a large site in Cork where we're doing intraocular lenses and delivery devices for cataract surgery. So working in R&D there for the last number of years, and more recently working for the Alcon Seed Fund, where we look to invest in up-and-coming innovators, startups in the ophthalmology space. But going back to the start in the context of BioInnovate, I guess, going back to the realizing your R&D ambition that Anne alluded to there, we partook in that, and what I really learned from that was different stages of the journeys that a lot of companies are in, be they startups, SMEs, or FDIs, all working towards trying to gain a greater foothold of their R&D and being able to innovate in Ireland and make themselves more sticky, if you like, so they can't be kind of moved. So one thing I learned from the conversations with peers, I suppose, in other companies was being ready for opportunities, being able to have the skill sets to be able to exploit opportunities should they arise. So for us, that's from the perspective of, in Alcon and Cork, we're wanting to become active earlier in the product life cycle. So in being able to do that, we need the right kind of skill set. So the BioInnovate and the BioDesign kind of ethos and methodology is perfect for that, because as Camille kind of mentioned there, it gets you asking all of the right questions, that you're not just focused on technology. Since I did the course 3 years ago, I've also, as I mentioned, gotten involved in the Alcon Seed Fund. And in that work, I'm going out there and I'm meeting startups and I'm meeting innovators, and I'm seeing where some are kind of falling down in not doing that. So, and meeting a lot of startups that have gone through BioInnovate as well in the ophthalmology space, they actually kind of stand out and differentiate themselves because they've done that, and we kind of see that. So, when we're working with these companies, we're trying to help them put forward as compelling a proposition as they can, because it's in our interest when we're meeting them to bring forward really good opportunities to Alcon to invest in. And if I see opportunities that have a really good technology, but maybe that they haven't looked at all of the other aspects of the proposition, like marketing, commercial, clinical, manufacturing, all of those basics, and so they haven't got the full story, because I've done the course, I know what kind of questions they need to be asked. I know what kind of prompts they need in order to kind of build up that proposition. So from an Alcon perspective, since I've done the course, I feel that we can see it from both sides. We can see on the team here trying to get ready for opportunities should they arise, because we need to be able to jump on them. And that's why we're going to send hopefully a couple of people on the next course. And then on the other side, in my own role now in the Seed Fund, kind of recognizing what potential startups that we want to engage in, what they're missing maybe because of getting these insights from the BioInnovate training. So I think it's really beneficial in that respect. It gives you the insights into the broader kind of story, the broader picture, that it's not just about the tech. Obviously, the tech is core to it all. You have to have good tech in order to proceed, but you also need to make sure it's backed up by really good information around how you're going to make it. Will you get a viable price point for it? Is there a market for it? Is it going to be competing with other products in a crowded market, or is it going to differentiate itself? All of those kind of things. You get insights into all of those kind of aspects of it. So it's been really, I think it's been really beneficial for myself personally in being able to kind of see all of that and apply it to my own job on a day-to-day basis.
And Barry, just and Alice, and come to yourself, and Camille as well, to bring, I suppose, everybody into the discussion. But just to start with, Barry, when you signed up to this program, but even to the RD&I Realising Your R&D Ambition program, what was your role at the time, and how has it changed by going through the programs that you've gone through, and by, you know, starting to see things in the whole, from a biodesign methodology perspective?
Yeah, so I guess myself and Rodney Mackin kind of got involved in the Realising Your R&D. Our goal then was we were trying to create a bigger and more relevant R&D function here in Cork. So we currently we're involved in design transfer. So we get prototype designs, etc., from our R&D in the US, and then we kind of launch it from the site. But we wanted to get earlier in the product life cycle, and we recognized that we needed to make ourselves more relevant in that space. So meeting all of our peers in medtech space through the Realise Your R&D Ambition kind of made us recognize, okay, there's a lot of gaps here that we didn't actually even realize we had in terms of like just basic knowledge. And really what it was about was building that foundational skill set in your teams, and part of that is the stuff like the BioInnovate and that kind of ethos and that methodology, recognizing and understanding it. So that really kind of got us interested in it. And then I visited BioInnovate a couple of times, then in that just connecting with early stage innovators and startups. And then I learned more from those interactions. And then when the conversation came up about how do we kind of increase access, you know, broader kind of knowledge and access to industry, that's where I got involved in that conversation. I just felt maybe even an entry level kind of 101 type of training would do a huge for getting people really kind of interested in it, and maybe going further on their journey afterwards, whether they're in an FTI like us or if they're a startup, whatever they are, you know, it just gaining that insights and understanding what it brings for you, I think was important.
Brilliant. And then Alice, you mentioned earlier about, you know, having known about BioInnovate and wanting to do a program with BioInnovate. What was it that appealed to you about wanting to work with BioInnovate in the first place? And has this program helped you to understand more the methodology and what happens there, or just, I suppose, to get a sense of that?
Yeah, so a lot of my colleagues had come out of doing the year-long program and had great things to say about it, and I had come across some of the methodology from speaking with them, and I thought they had a very interesting perspective of how they think about issues. And I have good connections with some of the staff who run the program as well, and it had just been recommended to me from a lot of different avenues. And when the name kept coming up, it said it must be worth looking into a bit more. And some of the management in my company had encouraged me to go for it as well. Like the biggest things that stood out for me about it was, like from people who were recommending it, was that change of perspective of how to see a need as a problem and assessing the gravity of that problem. Is it someone's own issue or difficulty that they see in their field, or is it an industry-wide issue? And even on that as well, of like, when we were doing the program, I found it very interesting that what a GP said was a major problem, once we came to talk to a surgeon, it never even crossed their desk. It never came up for patient. Just the different perspectives of all those stakeholders, learning how to assess needs like that and dig deeper and find the root cause of the problem. I thought was a great skill to pick up from the course.
Brilliant. And Camille, I'm actually going to come to you on this one, because I sat in on the Strategic Innovation Programme on day one earlier on this year. And one of the pieces is you know, from a BioInnovate perspective, you seem to really put people through their paces from you know, really questioning okay, well, that's a perspective, but it's not every perspective. So I suppose it'd be great to get that sense of when somebody signs up to a program, you know, you can go in maybe with one idea in your head, but it's to get that sense of what will people face if they sign up to this program when, you know, in March.
Yeah. I think yourself and Alice and Barry have kind of touched on something really special about BioInnovate. And what we really push on is to remove your own bias, to get out of your own way in understanding a problem. And we do that by bringing in many disciplines and creating. So over the 3 days, it's probably worth mentioning from a logistics point of view, you know, very broad range of backgrounds come in, and we put you within teams over the 3 days. And that way we can run a real clinical scenario, a real clinical problem over the 3 days. And within your teams, your own kind of background will benefit you, it'll contribute in certain timings over the 3 days, but also it will broaden your perspective. And so you'll be sitting next to, as Alice said, you might be sitting next to, a salesperson on global sales, and then hearing from a GP, and then the next moment hearing from a surgeon, and really understanding that that piece of stakeholder engagement is absolutely critical. In terms of what we do, so we choose a clinical area each year that that we're semi-familiar with, if you like, that we've run in various forums over the last couple of years. They're usually known clinical problems. I believe Barry's year we were looking at blood pressure monitors and the idea of atrial fibrillation, which is a problem I think everybody would be familiar with or know someone who's familiar with. And then the year of Alice's, we were looking at gastrointestinal disorders. So we like to heavily engage with our clinical environment, and this course in particular is open to healthcare professionals. It's CPD approved with our CPI for I think 18 credits. And so during the 3 days, you have interactions with clinicians. So Alice mentioned we heard from a GP, I think the first day, and then the second day we heard from a gastrointestinal surgeon. I think the year that we did atrial fibrillation with Barry, we also heard from clinicians within that space who were able to kind of talk to us about their experience, good and bad, with working with devices and technologies and trying to care for their patients. So we try to ground the 3 days in real world scenarios, but it is about creating that dialogue and that diverse across your team and across the room, so that you're getting a more holistic view on maybe what you understand or what you see every day in your career about health tech is here, but this is an opportunity to see the whole journey.
Great, brilliant. And I'd like to then just get a sense from Barry and Alice what you were expecting going in versus what you came out with. Was it more, was it less? What was your objective sort of going into the program? 3 days, or 2.5 days, as Camille said. Sometimes it is taking a lot of time out of your day, but it's that interaction and what you've come away with now that you apply in your role. I think that's really important for people, because it is really nice to go and do a program, and as Camille has already shamelessly plugged the program, I'm not going to do that, but I would like to just get a sense of what did you come away with, and do you apply any of the learnings to your days now? And Alice, I'll talk to yourself first on that one.
Yeah, my expectations compared to what the program actually was fantastic. Like, it is only 2.5, barely 3 days, and a lot of it gets packed in from the main big program. So I was very, very happy with all that came out of it. In terms of what I've been able to apply, I've found it useful in when issues are coming up in the clinic, from patients, from doctors, from caregivers, and trying to understand the gravity of those issues, whether it's an issue with our devices, our processes, or whether it's even a potential pipeline project for us to work with internally, and being able to go away and research that a bit more, assess, is this actually a big problem, and is there a market for it? Is it something that is worth looking into further? Would we actually be able to provide a solution that's feasible in this space? So I thought that was also a very interesting thing of the program too, of when our team initially were looking in the gastroenterology space. On the first day, I had like an idea in my mind of, oh, this would be a good problem, this would be a good solution, from hearing from the first person. And then by the end of it, we were like, that's totally not feasible. So being able to filter that down as well, I've been able to bring that into my work, my day-to-day work, when I hear issues in the clinic.
That's great to hear. It's very nice to hear that it's been applied on a daily basis, or when you need to. Barry, would you like to come in on that?
Yeah, so I'd had some awareness of it ahead of the course from work anyway, and connecting with people who were doing the BioInnovate alumni. So I kind of, I knew that it would try and give me this broader perspective on innovating, like, stretching away from just technology to all those other aspects. But what it actually really, by going through it, you gained even more kind of granularity on each of those aspects as well. And I got this main kind of concept of de-risking early, on your assumptions, looking at the complete patient journey. Because like I say, from my own perspective, where we're looking at cataract surgery, I still might have been going in with kind of slight blinkers, because looking at there's the surgery, that's where we're kind of focused on, and not seeing the whole patient journey. So like de-risking your opportunity that way, because you may not think that your technology is for that one task, but it can impact all of the other tasks, from the moment the patient engages with their GP right to the end when they're actually leaving the hospital. And so you have to make sure how can your opportunity seamlessly fit into that process, or is it going to be slightly disruptive in certain areas? All of those kind of questions that you wouldn't necessarily think about in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of applying it on a day-to-day basis, as I mentioned, two aspects. We are now actually looking at initiating a small bit of an innovation project here, where hopefully the guys working on it will be participants in the next training as well, so they can then learn how to apply the knowledge from the BioInnovate. And we're going visiting clinicians now and ideating on those ideas and thinking about prep, operation prep, patient, how they're coming in, not just focused on the surgery. And then my own job then as well with the L-Conceit fund, again, I've got that de-risking kind of mindset, when I'm asking them their questions about where they're going with their innovation, what are they doing, what are they thinking about in terms of manufacturing, for example, which I think, like, being my background in the whole lens space was in kind of process engineering, manufacturing, and all of that. So I have that bit of mindset. So I think about that closely. Is there going to be enough of a margin? What's the price point? All of that kind of stuff. So I can apply the more granular kind of de-risking type of checklist, if you like, or questioning to the startups that I'm talking to, and then we're also kind of we're applying that in-house as well. So it just broadens your mind, I think, in general, on the whole area of it.
That's great to hear. And Camille, I'm going to bring yourself and then bring it back to Alice and Barry. But just when you mention a specific disease area, what specifically, like, and I'm going to sort of be devil's advocate here and go, but if you're mentioning a specific disease area, if somebody isn't working in that disease area, and Barry and Alice, I'm going to ask you more or less the same question, does that kind of exclude people then in that area? Are you supposed to just give people that sense?
No, absolutely. It excludes nobody, and if anything, we almost try to do that on purpose. It's a core part of what we do in our year-long fellowship as well, and it's all about being removing your bias, and so we choose clinical problems that a lot of people will be familiar with, maybe even just on a high level. My mum kind of has a bit of high blood pressure, or my neighbor had gastritis, anything on that level. We don't have a high expectation for you coming in, you're experts and you become experts. It's not about that. It's about creating teams, creating that dialogue. We bring in a lot of guest speakers. I think Alison and Barry will say this. We try to kind of make the 3 days also an introduction to the network. If you're not already part of the health tech sector in Ireland, or particularly if you're coming from a healthcare background and you're like, oh, I know there's a whole industry there, but I'm extremely busy with my job. We try to create a little bit of that networking. So for instance, when I talk about, we had a surgeon come in, the first day, everyone's introduced to their problem, to their team, to our language around the methodology of what is a need, what's the difference between a need statement and a problem statement, and getting into the nitty-gritty there, hearing from kind of different perspectives on what they understand the problem to be. We have a little bit of a case study. And then the next day we had a surgeon from the University Hospital Galway come over for an hour, and it was an opportunity for teams to ask open-minded questions of, what does this really mean? Or when you see this patient, what's happening here, what's going through your head, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how we gather information. So the expectation on people joining up is not that you have particularly skills in specific areas, and I won't be releasing what the clinical area is for 2026. It's just about empowering you to have those conversations, to gain the information, and to work through the process as much as possible. So we have to kind of use one clinical problem to ground everybody and democratize the room for 3 days. But we do kind of shout out where there are skills or specific tools where we're like, this is for this example, you can absolutely take that back to your team. And they might be stakeholder interviewing, clinician validation, they might be patient journey mapping, there might be different ways to ideate. I think a lot of people kind of, think that they do a bit of brainstorming, but we show some maybe different angles of how to do it in a really time efficient manner. And then of course presentations. So we do try to get people to kind of open up and chat and kind of present their ideas or their thoughts as much as possible over the 3 days. And then lastly, as I mentioned around guest speakers, we do have clinicians. We also try to bring in some alumni of the program who are maybe starting their journey to creating big clinical impact, or experts in specific areas as well. So we do touch on a lot. I think Alice and Barry have mentioned that it is a very busy couple of days. But it is I think a very enjoyable 3 days. And it's a very immersive way to get into the methodology.
Right, and I'm going to come to that. Actually, there is a question to say, confirming that it's going to be in Galway. So, and it's in University College Galway. It's not in the Galmont Hotel, right?
No, it's in the University of Galway in the BioInnovate building on Block E. So we'll be there for the 3 days.
Okay, brilliant.
And I think, Anne, just to say, the confusion could be that there's a corporate rate available in the Galmont Hotel. So for any participants that need overnight accommodation, there is a corporate rate available. Full details are on the website there, and the link I've shared anyway. So that might be just where the confusion arose.
Brilliant. Thanks, Siobhan. And Barry and Alice, I want to come to yourself then on, exactly what Camille talked to. And I suppose what I was trying to, understand is if somebody is talking on a clinical issue, or a disease that isn't your space, how for both of you, and Alice, I'll ask you on this first. How was that for you? Not related to the area you're working in, but just get a sense of that.
Yeah, I suppose there's a moment of panic on the very first day, like, oh God, I know nothing about this. I'm out of my depth here. But it's not about the topic that you're looking into. It's about the skill set that you're trying to learn. It's the same way you're trying to learn anything. You have to learn through examples. And there's a bit of a beauty in it as well, that you get to ask the stupid questions. And you get to ask, well, I have no idea what this is about, and it can bring you down a little bit of a pathway too. And when you ask the same kind of silly questions to different people, you get different answers out of it as well. So I think it was actually better that I wasn't familiar with the space, because you would have come with a bit of a, you would have come with a bit of a bias and a bit of an opinion of the space, and think you already have a pathway of solutions as well. And so it really lets you focus on what we're here to learn, and that's how to filter through these needs.
Great. No, that is great to hear. Yeah, that you're not going in with a bias in any way, shape, or form. That's always good. And Barry, it's same really to yourself.
Yeah, no, quite similar. I mean, I think it's actually pitched at a level where you can pick up knowledge on the topic fairly quickly, and just through the right kind of questions and all that. And like, as you go through it, then you kind of realize, I'm actually glad it's like this, because first it does take away the bias, but it helps you actually gain insights and a realization that maybe you don't know as much as you think about your own topic as well, because you would never maybe have asked yourself these questions about your own area, because you'd probably think, yeah, sure, I know all about it. You know what I mean? So then, when you some of the questions and conversations and the way it's kind of structured, it definitely kind of, what you come away with is, okay, I need to explore more in my own space here, because I actually don't really fully understand it, I think, because of, from exploring an unknown, a space unknown to you, but it just gives you that kind of insight and maybe self-awareness possibly.
Oh, that's great to hear, because you're not just going back thinking about what you've just talked about, but you're actually going back and asking more questions.
Interrogating more, yeah.
Interrogating more, yeah. There's a question on here, and I'm not familiar with this at all, but there's been a question about the ARC Hub training. It doesn't relate to the ARC Hub training, but I don't know if anybody else on the call is aware of it.
Yeah, so I think that might be in relation to the ARC Hub for Health Tech. So a number of different ARC Hubs were announced all over Ireland, and we have one here in the University of Galway, partnered, I think, with RCSI and a few others, where it's accelerating research to commercialization, I think is what ARC stands for.
Okay.
I think that, just to kind of touch on that question, Patricia, is so it is a separate entity to BioInnovate, but the methodology and the skills in terms of fully understanding, your core problem, fully understanding your journey to commercialization, all the aspects that need to be thought about, it's the full circle moment of, seeing the problem, knowing the problem, getting people to agree that it is a problem, and then all of the aspects that need to be considered when thinking about a solution. Those tools that we go through over the 3 days can be applicable if you're part of, and I'm not sure if you are, but if you are a part of the ARC Hub piece. So it could be very applicable training if you've received funding from ARC Hub in order to sort of work our methodology within your own process. But I would say I think that applies to anybody who might be on the call, whether you're a nurse in a hospital right now, or whether you're an R&D engineer or a researcher. This is a framework for considering your problem, what you know and what you don't know, who it is that you could contact to broaden your horizon, and people's reasonings for coming on the course are sometimes around personal development. They want to get into innovation. They want to know more about what they're doing. Sometimes their professional base is, maybe this is going to be a stepping stone to join another business unit, or to be better positioned later in the year for a promotion, whatever that might be. This is a way to get very immersive training for skills and tools that are applicable across the board, I would say.
Great, thanks, Camille. And Patricia, if you want to contact any of us after the webinar as well, we're very open to having a discussion with us about the program. So please do link in with us. So with that in mind, the program is on in March, and it's on in the BioInnovate Centre. And just before we finish up today, I'd like to just really hand over to both Alice and Barry to give your final comments before. Oh,
Sorry, just before that, I spot another question in the Q&A there from
Okay.
Jessica. She says, "Will the clinical area be announced on day one?" So we'll get in for the day and we'll register, and I'll introduce a little bit about halfway through the first day about what the area is going to be. I would say don't put too much emphasis on it. It's just a way for us to have a project or a common theme so we can talk openly amongst all the groups for the 3 days. No pre-course research to be required. You're welcome to have a look at the BioDesign book and learnings and teachings, but none of that is required. There's no level of understanding required when you show up on day one.
Great, brilliant. Thanks, Camille. So Barry, to yourself, what would your advice be? You've already said that you're going to put probably 2 more people from the company onto the program and the upcoming program. So just, I suppose, to get a sense from yourself, what you'd advise companies?
Yeah, so I think like this can help anybody, no matter where they are in their journey. So obviously, if you're a startup and you're starting out, huge benefit here. You know, you just gain the right kind of skill set, the right kind of learnings and insights that will help you kind of move along. But for ourselves in an FDI, large company, where we're trying to, let's say, strengthen our R&D presence in a large corporate, it provides us then locally with the kind of skill set we need in order to kind of jump on opportunities should they arise. You know, so there's something here for everybody, I think, is what I would say. And the 3 days are really enjoyable. It's really, you get stuck in. There's never a dull moment. Plenty of good conversation. Plenty of kind of swapping ideas. It's high energy kind of an atmosphere in a good setting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a win-win for everybody. If you go along to this, you definitely gain something from it that'll help yourself and who you're working with.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Barry. And Alice, I'm going to leave the last word to yourself.
Yeah, I suppose to Barry's same point is of it being for everyone, like the background that you come from doesn't hugely matter, whether it's R&D or the clinical aspect or even marketing or quality systems. Like, it's all about giving you a different perspective and being able to look at things from everyone's angles. So I don't think there's any department in medtech that it wouldn't benefit in some shape or form.
Great, thank you very much. And it's really good to hear this because, yeah, I mean, the whole objective at the outset was when we met with a group of companies that helped us to define what this program, both these programs should look like. We asked companies what did they want, both big, small, medium, across Ireland, and startups, and that's where we devised the whole sort of structure, working alongside BioInnovate to do that. So I do want to let everyone know the recording is available. So if you want to follow up with ourselves in Irish Medtech Skillnet or follow up with BioInnovate, these programs are available and they are subsidised through the Irish Medtech Skillnet. So please do contact us and we'll do everything in our power to help you.
Yeah, I've just popped my email in the chat for anybody who wants to kind of reach out and have maybe an offline chat about suitability or timing or any other questions that you might have. I'm happy to answer them.
Great, thanks very much, Camille. So without further ado, we'll call proceedings to an end. And again, to thank Barry, Alice, Camille, and everybody for their help, and Siobhan for coordinating us today. So thanks very much, everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Happy Christmas.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.